9 October 2001, Australia awoke to discover that its second-largest airline, Ansett Australia, had vanished overnight, leaving empty check-in desks, stranded passengers, and a nation wondering how a carrier that once ruled the skies could simply disappear. Founded in 1935 by the visionary Sir Reginald Reg Ansett, the airline began as a modest regional service linking Melbourne to the gold-rich town of Broken Hill. With a single de Havilland Dragon Rapide and an indomitable spirit, Ansett quickly proved that the Australian outback could be tamed by air travel. By the 1950s, the fleet had grown to include the sleek Douglas DC-3 that connected the mainland to distant Tasmania, and the airline's bold expansion into freight and charter services cemented its reputation as a pioneer of domestic connectivity. The 1970s marked a golden era. Ansett introduced the Boeing 727, launching its first jet services and offering Australians a faster, more comfortable way to cross the continent. The airline's aggressive marketing campaign, Fly the Australian Way, captured the imagination of a growing middle class eager to explore their own country. By the early 1980s, Ansett owned a sprawling network of subsidiaries, from the regional carrier Kendall to the low-cost offshoot Impulse and the lucrative Pacific airline Ansett New Zealand. The airline's share price surged, and its iconic red and white livery became a familiar sight on runways from Perth to Port Moresby. Yet beneath the glossy veneer, cracks began to appear. In the late 1980s, Ansett embarked on an ambitious fleet renewal, ordering a mixed bag of Airbus A320, Boeing 767, and even a few McDonnell Douglas MD-80. The diversification was intended to modernize the fleet, but the simultaneous acquisition of aging aircraft and the costly integration of new technology strained cash flow. Management, buoyed by past triumphs, pursued aggressive fare wars with the national carrier, Qantas, discounting tickets to capture market share while still shouldering soaring operational costs. By 1995, warning signs became impossible to ignore. A series of high-profile labor disputes erupted as pilots, engineers, and ground staff demanded better wages and safer working conditions. Strikes grounded flights for days, eroding passenger confidence. Meanwhile, Ansett's parent company, the British conglomerate TNT, attempted a leveraged buyout that saddled the airline with debt exceeding $2 billion. The company's financial statements revealed a troubling pattern. Revenue growth was outpaced by rising fuel prices, maintenance backlogs, and soaring interest payments. The turn of the millennium intensified the pressure. In 1999, Ansett launched Ansett Australia Plus, a premium loyalty program designed to mimic the success of Qantas' frequent flyer. While the program attracted a handful of high-value customers, it failed to offset the mounting losses from underutilized routes in regional Queensland and the costly expansion into the Pacific. The airline's cost structure remained inflexible. Legacy contracts with aircraft manufacturers and airport authorities locked Ansett into expensive agreements that competitors could sidestep. Then, in March 2000, a devastating blow struck. The Asian financial crisis rippled through the tourism market, slashing demand for international travel to and from Australia. Ansett's overseas subsidiaries, especially Ansett New Zealand, reported double-digit losses. The airline's board, desperate to stabilize the business, sought a strategic partner. Negotiations with the Virgin Group stalled, and a proposed merger with Qantas was blocked by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission on antitrust grounds. The company's liquidity dwindled to a precarious level, and creditors began to demand immediate repayment. On 13 August 2001, Ansett's board announced a provisional administration, citing unforeseeable financial pressures. The announcement sent shockwaves through the nation. Within 48 hours, the airline's assets were frozen, its aircraft grounded, and its staff left in limbo. By the following morning, the Australian Securities Exchange had suspended Ansett's shares, and the Department of Transport declared the airline insolvent. The abrupt closure left over 15,000 employees unemployed and stranded passengers clutching tickets for flights that would never take off. The collapse sent ripples across the aviation landscape. Regional airports that had relied on Ansett's feeder services faced sudden declines in passenger numbers, forcing some to cut staff and reduce flight frequencies. The government, unprepared for a crisis of this magnitude, launched an emergency task force to reallocate routes and protect consumer rights. In the weeks that followed, Qantas and the emerging low-cost carrier Virgin Blue scrambled to fill the void, offering discounted fares and aggressive recruitment drives to capture the displaced market share. For the average Australian, the fallout was personal. Families who had booked holidays to the Great Barrier Reef found themselves stranded in Melbourne, while business travelers were forced to rebook at exorbitant prices. The sudden loss of a national icon sparked a wave of public outcry, with protests outside Ansett's headquarters and heated debates on television panels about corporate responsibility, regulation, and the fragility of the airline industry. In the years that followed, the Ansett saga became a cautionary tale taught in business schools across the country. Investigations revealed that a combination of overexpansion, poor risk management, and an inability to adapt to a rapidly changing market had sealed the airline's fate. The assets of the defunct carrier were sold off piece by piece. Aircraft were leased to other airlines. The brand name was auctioned, and the remaining routes were absorbed by competitors. Yet the legacy of Ansett lives on. Former employees, now scattered across the aviation sector, speak of a company that once embodied Australian ingenuity and ambition. Subscribe to The Collapse for more stories like this.